Well, I mean, I think superior technology always wins in the business model race. I mean, you and I have lived through two waves of this already, right? The internet came out and every firm we worked with was like, we're never putting any functionality on the internet. It's not safe, right? Then cloud technology came out. Every firm was like, we're never putting our data in the cloud. It's not safe. Blockchain comes out. We're never using blockchain. It's not safe. And in reality, the entire industry went onto the web. The entire industry is now in the cloud, and the entire industry will be on blockchain.
And
well,
one thing that I have been saying quite often, I would argue, on this channel is that 2025 is the year where almost everything around crypto has changed. But also, 2025 has been one of the biggest years for crypto in history. And it just becomes much, much bigger with announcements like the one that we see in front of us right now. The Reserve Bank of India to launch pilot for tokenized deposits. This is becoming a growing narrative where all of these big banks are jumping into the tokenized deposit, hype era, if you will, where we have JP Morgan, Citi, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, all of them looking into tokenizing their deposits. And this is crazy to think about, but again, this is why I keep saying that 2025 has been one of the biggest years for crypto, because it's the year where we are starting to see a green light across the board from institutional giants. This is also a big signal of what's to come. Every single bank, and I mean every single bank, is going to line up and tap into tokenization at scale. And it is going to happen around tokenized deposits. This is the easiest thing for them to trial tokenization with. Now, outside of this, here we have the full breakdown from Crypto Almond. We have RBI launches deposit tokenization pilot. They will launch a tokenization pilot on October 8th of this year to tokenize bank deposits using blockchain-based CBDCs. Tokenized deposits enable faster, secure interbank transfers. Pilot will leverage CBDC for reduced settlement risk. India is adapting the blockchain technology. So yeah, listen, 2025 has been the year of acceptance for this technology, and it's only going to become a much bigger narrative. I don't think people realize how big of a vote of confidence this is when it's coming from a huge bank like RBI. By the way, RBI has always been a big player that's been connected back to Ripple for years. If you guys want to go and look up all of those connections, you guys are more than welcome to. We've gone over it in the past, especially with the BRICS nations moves happening around crypto. But yeah, this is a huge deal. Now, on top of that, we also got another big update, and this is from BNY Mellon. Just in, the world's largest custodian bank, BNY Mellon, is exploring allowing tokenized deposits and blockchain payments. It seems as though we are seeing a flood from the institutional players diving into blockchain and tokenized deposits and tokenization as a whole. This is a huge, huge deal because, again, when we think about Ripple and XRP or even Hedera, Stellar, etc., any utility-based project, this is essentially, a confirmation that these big utility giants are going to see increased adoption as well. Why do I say that? Well, because a lot of these institutional players that are diving into the space, they're already working with some of these names. Take BNY Mellon for an example, right? They're already working with Ripple. They've always been a long-term partner of Ripple's, but they're already working with Ripple around ROUSD. This got announced back in July. BNY selected to serve as the primary reserve custodian of Ripple's enterprise-grade stablecoin, Ripple USD. They're jointly committed to paving the way for digital asset adoption at institutional scale, and together are helping to bridge the gap between the traditional finance and cryptocurrency ecosystems. So when we see announcements like this, again, this is giving those utility-based networks that vote of confidence that they need that, guess what? This technology is disrupting the status quo. This technology is the future. I'm very excited about this because, again, we are seeing so much confirmation around crypto tech in a single year. The announcements that have happened in 2025 alone have overshadowed every single announcement combined in the last like 10 years for crypto. This is the biggest year for this entire industry. Now, on top of that, we have the CEO from Bitwise. We have Meta, Google, Apple, etc. are going to compete with banks. Through stablecoins, you'll be able to have deposits with interest with them. Through tokenization, you'll be able to trade crypto and securities with them. Tech companies have experimented with financial services before. Crypto is making it newly possible. Software is eating the world. The financial system is next. And yeah, this is one of the biggest things that I want everyone to focus on. We are in it's a disruption era. That's essentially what this is. It's a disruption era of everything. Major companies tapping into these services that were not there before. Tokenization, stablecoins. Stablecoins is the biggest one, right? I know that we talk about ROUSD quite a bit in stablecoins, and I know that it's a boring use case. I know that it's a boring subject. Oh, stablecoins. Who cares about stablecoins, right? Well, the thing about stablecoins is it's the easiest thing that all of these big companies, these big banks, all of these big players can tap into in a very easy way. If the stablecoin is like ROUSD, fully, compliant, it's fully transparent, it's regulated, guess what? These big players can tap into it and utilize it. So if we're thinking about that, what's stopping these huge companies like Meta, Google, Apple, etc., to tap into ROUSD and all of a sudden compete with big banks? Nothing's stopping them. And with tokenization, yeah, we're starting to see a lot of these big companies piloting tokenization use cases. This is the start of the biggest shift happening around crypto. This is that social media like event, for the internet. That's essentially what this is for crypto. Now, on top of that, we also have over here from the CIO of Bitwise, he's quoting Hunter, and we have the 5 largest financial services companies in the US are on average 109 years old. The median age is 70. I think it's time for disruption. Berkshire founded it in 1955. JP Morgan founded it in 1799. Visa founded it in 1958. MasterCard founded it in 1966. Bank of America founded it in 1904. Yeah, it's time for disruption. And this disruption is not going to stop at banks. It's going to go through every single major industry. Every single major financial industry out there is going to be disrupted by this technology. We've talked about it with asset classes, right? Every single asset class will be disrupted by tokenization. Tokenization is enabling use cases that were never possible in the traditional financial space. And this is only going to become a much bigger deal going forward. The adoption of this technology is just beginning, and we have a massive, massive path in front of us to go on, and it's only going to lead to increased growth, increased adoption, and the value of these utility-based networks that offer real-world use case value. The value around them is only going to increase more and more and more as well. Now, I bring all of this up because we also recently got a big update from Franklin Templeton's head of innovation, Sandy Cole. Big shout to Subjective Views for this. There's 3 video clips along with this. Just said that blockchain protocols are going to be the future utilities for the entire world. All books on records will be on public blockchains and financial products will be digitally native. They also believe that the layer 1s and layer 2s will become the utility ledgers for the entire world. Check this out.
We firmly believe that blockchain and these protocols are going to be the future utilities for the entire world, right? I don't believe in 15 years, 20 years, any organization, company, government, small business, individual, none of us are going to keep our own books and records, right? This is going to all be on public blockchain. These L1s and L2s that are out today, they are becoming, to us, the utility ledgers for the entire world. And so we are moving our whole thinking towards this infrastructure, which means no more accounts, all wallet-based. We believe that the entire future is going to be operated out of cryptographically protected wallets. And that means that every asset that sits in that wallet is going to be either a digitally native asset, a cryptocurrency, or a tokenized asset. And therefore they are going to be interoperable. They're going to be commingled. They are going to have greater utility. They're going to settle instantly. They are going to be able to be easily transferred, and they're going to be able to be pledged in terms of collateral or liquidity pools or staking pools. There's going to be so much more that we believe people are going to be able to do with their assets. And so what we're doing is we're really building our future state infrastructure inside of our current infrastructure. And so we have committed to wallets, and we have committed to this idea that products in the future are going to be digitally native. Most of our asset manager peers at this point are still working on this premise that blockchain is going to supplement their current account-based, mainframe-based systems. And so they're content using digital twins. But we don't feel that digital twins fulfill the true purpose and utility of the blockchain, and they don't have nearly the same number of use cases. So I think that's the biggest difference. And then I think just the earliness of our journey and the fact that we've been engaged with not just the SEC, but a global set of regulators for going on 7 full years now. And so we've built up a lot of trust, and we've gotten a lot of permissions to do things that no other asset manager has. So I think that's been the big difference in why we're so far ahead right now.
And remember that Franklin Templeton also said that Bitcoin was the biggest distraction away from the biggest revolution happening, and that is beyond Bitcoin. What other technologies are in this space that can offer value outside of this nonsense that keeps getting spewed around Bitcoin? Well, it's the utility-based networks, and Franklin Templeton is already tokenizing on, Stellar. They're also working with some other additional big players as well in the space, and this is only going to continue to expand. We know that the future is a multi-chain future where these utility-based networks are going to dominate every single financial asset class, but all of these big financial giants of the world, they're going to get replaced by these types of utility networks. If they don't adapt, they will die and get replaced. Now, also over here, we have the next 5 years is going to see more change in the industry than you have seen in the last 50 years. Check it out.
If you're an FA or you're a client, how do you manage this interim period, acknowledging that you're building, the final product? Do you give a common, experience? How do you deal with that? And by the way, I think there's a lot of risk between the old and the new. One's not settling very fast. The other one is. How do you bring this weird interim period together for your clients?
Yeah. And it's such a great question, Chris. And we could probably spend an entire hour just debating this question, right? My personal point of view on this is that you can't go slow, right? If we're going to really do this, we have to do this quickly. And that means that there is going to be an overwhelming mandate to get these wallet-based systems into place as quickly as possible, that there is going to be continued regulatory and legislative pressures to define all the rules around how to operate in these spaces. And there is going to be surging demand from new entrants that is going to pressure incumbents to probably transition their business models a lot faster than they would have ever anticipated. We like to say that we think that the next 5 years is going to see more change in the industry than you have seen in the last 50. And that's a scary process, and it's a scary prospect, but I think that it's going to be a very exciting journey. And it's for exactly the reason you say. You can't go slow. You can't have this split system where some things are moving on a completely different time frame and other things are moving instantly, because it creates all of these potentials for there to be problems. So I think that the pressure is going to be to move to the more efficient set of rails as fast as possible.
Now, I know that she said 5 years, and that might scare you a bit, but I think once we start to see things like the Clarity Act to get passed fully, that 5 years becomes 2.5. I think things are going to happen much faster than you ever thought possible. I mean, think about what has happened in the last 12 months. The last 12 months, I mean, it has gone and passed so quickly, but within that 12-month period, we have witnessed some of the biggest moves happening around the crypto industry. I mean, moves that were bigger than the last 5-10 years around crypto. This is how quick things can change once we start to see that growing acceptance around technology. And also, the confirmation of just how disruptive this space and the technology behind it is from some of the most prominent names. That's also why I've always said that all it really takes is one big player to start to adopt this technology. And at this point, you could argue that there's multiple big players that have already adopted the technology. Franklin Templeton, BlackRock, Fidelity. I mean, these big players are starting to tap in, and it's only going to become, a much bigger deal over the next couple weeks, months, years, because bigger names are going to jump in. And it's going to increase in scale as well. 1 bank, 2 banks, 10 banks, all of a sudden you have almost every single bank tapped into the blockchain space. Now, on top of that, we also have over here that, again, she's saying that the entire industry will be on blockchain. This is something that everyone needs to listen close to because, again, this is giving us the insight on just how big crypto will be in the coming years. Check it out.
Well, I think superior technology always wins in the business model race. I mean, you and I have lived through 2 waves of this already, right? The internet came out and every firm we worked with was like, we're never putting any functionality on the internet. It's not safe, right? Then cloud technology came out. Every firm was like, we're never putting our data in the cloud. It's not safe. Blockchain comes out. We're never using blockchain. It's not safe. And in reality, the entire industry went onto the web. The entire industry is now in the cloud, and the entire industry will be on blockchain.
And she is 100% correct here. I mean, listen, over time, we have watched as these core pieces of technology. I mean, these core pieces of technology have become one of the most adopted pieces around these huge industries. The internet is running majority of everything that we see on a day-to-day basis. Now it's time to bring everything on chain and really witness how disruptive and how revolutionary this technology is. And some of the biggest players are already preparing to do this. The DTCC is already tapped in this market. This is a company that is moving quadrillions of dollars per year. They want to tokenize. They're tapping into DLT. They're tapping into blockchain. Swift just announced a new blockchain-based ledger with 30 plus banks. And regardless of how you take this announcement, the best way that I look at this is, guess what? They have figured out that blockchain is the future. And if they don't adapt, they will die. They will get replaced. But also, let's go back to that first video. All books on records will be on public blockchains, not these private blockchain initiatives built by these private companies that everyone hates. Nobody wants to utilize Swift. So when we think about what's happening here, we are witnessing one of the biggest revolutions in well over 100 plus years. And this is a revolution that will, be spoken about. It will be, learned about. People will be teaching this for the next 100 years because, again, crypto is not going anywhere. If anything, it's going to become much bigger. It's going to become a piece of every single process on a day-to-day basis. So this is why when we think about XRP, we think about all of these utility-based networks, they are going to absolutely dominate in the long term, and they are going to become extremely valuable. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, to notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.